Guernsey. Hi, Kelsey.
How are you?
Nice to see you. I'm
You
good.
too.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
You look like you're ready for the Christmas.
Yeah, it's a good festive suit to put on today. So I figured, if not now, then when? So yeah.
Perfect time to
I
wear
like it.
Your predecessor, Jared Jarzinka, was at It's a Wonderful Life last night at the Michigan Theater.
Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. And I just saw the executive director for the Michigan Theater. I had lunch at SOAR today. So he was having lunch next to me. So we were chit-chatting. They had 350 students there today to watch Santa Buddies, I think he said. So I happened to drive by when all the buses were leaving and picking kids up. But I love to see it busy and full and the community taking advantage of what a beautiful place that is.
It is, and it has a lot more events coming up this holiday season. Next up on Friday is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, sponsored by Derek Dobies. So check that out, free movie. And then there's a lot more. We've got West Winds will be doing some of their Christmas services there. So yeah, it looks beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's just such a beautiful space. I love to see the community taking advantage of it.
Yeah, there are several nonprofits that have decorated trees that are in the lobbies at the theater. So check those out.
That's super fun. Yeah, I have not been in there since they did the ribbon cutting and the grand unveiling of everything. So I'll have to swing by again and see. I know they're doing a lot of kids movies. I might take my kiddos over there to see. Yeah, I know Walton Agency was doing one last week, I think I saw, but my son plays hockey, and so that kind of takes over our life.
And I understand you're taking the family to see Nightlights.
We are, Friday evening, yes. My sister and I are planning, and there'll be 5 adults and 4 kiddos that we're all gonna go and pile in and go see the Nightlights. We like to do that every year, so it's such a cool thing to do.
Yep, it's awesome. We were looking at the Detroit news today, and maybe it was a Free Press. They were analyzing statistics of court cases. They settled on 2 in particular, traffic stops and parking tickets, and in both cases, way down.
Sure.
And they were theorizing that maybe police were concentrating their efforts on things maybe more serious.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was looking at Jackson County statistics, and overall, our caseload in our courts, they're up from last year.
Yeah. So when I don't have to bring some paperwork with me, but I didn't want to forget the numbers. So we do lots of end of year number stuff, and we can see this year for Jackson County, we have had 5,773. So over 5,700 warrant requests submitted to our office. In previous years, it's been 4,300 and even 3,500, a couple years ago. So we're having a large increase. The other thing is, of those numbers, we're currently authorizing about 80% of the warrants that come through, whereas in previous years, we've been closer to mid-60s or even sometimes high 50s in those warrants, and as we're looking at numbers and we're looking at, holy moly, we're busy, and what that looks like and what attributes to that. I've talked a lot with people, and I think a lot of it is the collaborativeness with law enforcement. We've worked really hard this year to have some trainings with law enforcement, really have some good open communication with them about what do we need in our cases to be able to prove the cases in court, and what can they do to help with that. And I think we've had a lot of success with that. Because we've had so many cases, I've been doing some more hands-on stuff, and I was reading through a lot of reports in the last couple weeks, and they're really good reports. Whereas before we might have had a page of information, now I have 4 pages of information, and now I can make really informed decisions, really good witness interviews, detailed information that's shared with us. And so I think we've worked really, really well with law enforcement. They've taken our notes, and they've, really worked well with their reports. And the numbers really seem to show we're charging a lot more cases right now, and our caseload is much higher right now because of it.
So statistics, when you analyze those and see there are more arrests, more court cases, it makes the community look like there's more crime.
Sure.
So is it?
And I don't think there's any more crime. In fact, when we look at kind of those really top-end violent offenses, those are down. And we can see statistically our homicides, our sexual assaults, our robberies, our really violent assaults, those numbers are down, and we know that they're down. What I think we're getting better at is just investigating them. Those cases that they happened before, but we couldn't prove it in court. We couldn't investigate it. We didn't get enough cooperation from the community, or law enforcement wasn't able to put something together, they're putting better cases together, and so we're prosecuting more of them now. I don't think the numbers are any different overall. We're just getting better cases presented to us because law enforcement's really working hard out there and busting their butts to get us good cases.
And the resolution would be convictions.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. But it's funny when I talk, so we have 8th graders that come into the courthouse and we do these tours with every 8th grade class that comes in from the whole county. And when I talk about them, I talked about the kind of the continuum of punishment or consequences, right? And at the one level you have fines and costs, and at the other level you have prison. But there's so much in between there, and we really try to, in our office, figure out what's justice for this case, right? It might be fines and costs. It might be a small amount of probation. It might be some sort of deferment or a delay or something to keep a conviction off the record because it's a first-time offender kind of a thing. We really try hard to work with people. We understand that felonies are impactful on people's lives, and we understand that driver's licenses are important. We don't have a robust, public transit, outside of the city, and so we understand that what we do can have really serious consequences, but we have to hold people accountable as well.
Do you know how close you are to potentially being a worldwide celebrity? Did you see last week the arraignment of Sharon Moore in Washtenaw County?
I did.
Former Jackson
Chief
County
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Katie
Vrzmersky. Yep. Yeah. She is now they call it like a first assistant in Washtenaw, but she's kind of the head of their sexual assault, domestic violence, special victims unit, if you will, in Washtenaw. And so, she had said it's a first in her career for ESPN to be in her courtroom. So I know that's been interesting for her. And my mom had said, did you think about that, or is that something? I go, I guess it could happen in any county, right? But as prosecutors, we make the best right decisions we can with the information we have, and what we can prove in court. And we say all the time, I say it to victims, we say it to anybody, what I know and what I can prove are usually two different things. And I have to focus on what I can prove. And I know the same goes for her over there, and all of the scrutiny that she's going to be under for the next couple months, if not longer. But she's been doing it a long time. She knows what she's doing. So
yeah, it's too early to tell, but it sounds like a lot of the speculation being first-time offender that this won't be back in a courtroom.
Yeah, I think they've got a long way to go, and it's so early in the process, so it's kind of a wait and see as to what will happen with it. But if there's somebody that needed to do something like that, Katie's the one. She's got all the experience to do it. So that case is in good hands over there, that's for sure.
So how would you? It's been a year, your first year as a prosecutor. How would you rate yourself?
There's a lot of things that I've learned this year, and I have been really, really grateful for a staff that has allowed me to learn. This is a staff that I've grown up with, right? Some of them have been in the office longer than I have. And so I'm really grateful for a staff that has welcomed maybe some bumps in a leadership role as I'm figuring some things out, but really think we're at a really good place right now. And when I took over this spot, I don't really know what that mixture was going to be like in terms of in the courtroom and not in the courtroom, and attending the community meetings that are kind of obligations, and I need to be there and be a part of those conversations, but also attentive to the court system and where I also need to be there. And because of these numbers, I have found myself for the last couple months in particular really kind of sliding in and trying to help my staff get caught up because these numbers are just so high. And so I found myself doing some general misdemeanor dockets and some general run-of-the-mill traffic tickets and some things like that, which were interesting, and just back to some basics. I did that for a lot of years. Judge Claren's courtroom in particular, I spent a lot of time in his courtroom as what we call a baby APA. And so, I've kind of done a rotation back in there lately. So it's been interesting, and it's been cool. I like kind of getting back to the roots, making sure things are happening the way they should happen. And it's good to see my staff's doing it all the right way.
Have any of those defendants with the speeding ticket been surprised to have the chief prosecutor?
Right. You know, I think what surprised them sometimes is I'll call a victim on a simple malicious destruction of property, right? Maybe somebody broke a window or something, and here I'm the one calling the victim to say, hey, let's talk about this case, or yeah, somebody shows up for a commercial motor vehicle speeding ticket, down 94, and they're like, oh, yep, nope, I'm the one to talk to. They're like, oh, hey, okay. But I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed getting back to those basics, and we'll continue, as we navigate, as Nathan Hall and I, he's my chief assistant, as we navigate, how we lead the office, run the office, but also, keep in touch with the cases. It's been a good balancing act. We try to always have somebody in the office if somebody else is in court, so we've always got somebody around to put out the fires, as we say.
Great to have the update from you. Thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Our Jackson County prosecuting attorney, Kelsey Guernsey. We've got a lot more on the show